Maya Collins pulled her thin jacket tighter as she walked out of the diner. The cold winter wind cut through the fabric like a knife. Snow was falling harder now, and the weather report had warned about a big storm coming. She looked up at the dark sky and sighed. It was going to be a long night. The 19-year-old girl had just finished her second job of the day. She worked at the diner from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, then cleaned offices until 8 at night. Every dollar mattered when you were trying to survive on your own in Detroit. Her small apartment was only 6 blocks away. But in this weather, it felt like 6 miles. Maya's feet were sore from standing all day, and her back ached from scrubbing floors. She thought about the engineering books waiting for her at home. Even though she had to drop out of college 2 years ago when her parents died in that car crash, she still studied every night. She dreamed of designing rocket engines that could take people to the stars. It seemed impossible now, but dreams were free. The bus station was on her way home, and she could see it glowing through the falling snow. There were more people than usual huddled inside, trying to stay warm. The storm had canceled many buses, leaving travelers stranded. Maya felt sorry for them, but she had her own problems to worry about. As she walked past the station, she heard a small voice crying. She stopped and looked through the glass doors. A little boy, maybe 8 years old, was sitting on a bench next to a tall man. The child was shivering despite wearing a heavy coat, and tears were running down his face. Maya hesitated. She was tired, cold, and hungry. All she wanted was to go home, eat her simple dinner, and study her books. But something about the crying child made her heart ache. She pushed open the heavy door and walked inside. The warmth of the station hit her face, and she felt her cheeks start to burn as they warmed up. She walked over to the bench where the man and boy were sitting. The man looked tired and worried. His expensive clothes were wrinkled, and his hair was messy. He was holding the boy close, trying to comfort him. "Are you okay?" Maya asked softly. The man looked up at her with surprised blue eyes. "Our car broke down about an hour ago," he said. "The tow truck can't come until tomorrow because of the storm. We've called every hotel in the city, but they're all full. People are stuck here because of the weather." The little boy looked up at Maya with wet eyes. "I'm scared," he whispered. "It's so cold, and we don't have anywhere to sleep." Maya's heart broke a little. She knew what it felt like to be scared and alone. After her parents died, she had spent many nights crying and afraid. She looked at the man again. He seemed like a good father, trying to stay calm for his son even though he was clearly worried. "What's your name?" she asked the boy. "Danny," he said in a small voice. "This is my dad, Jake." Jake smiled at her, but she could see the stress in his eyes. "I'm sorry to bother you. We'll figure something out." Maya looked around the station. More people were coming in from the storm, and it was getting crowded. She could see that some people were already settling down on benches, preparing to spend the night in the cold, uncomfortable building. This was no place for a scared little boy. She made a decision that surprised even herself. "I live just a few blocks from here," she said. "It's not much, but you could stay at my place tonight, just until the storm passes." Jake stared at her in shock. "We couldn't impose on you like that. You don't even know us." "I know you're a father trying to take care of his son," Maya said simply. "And I know what it's like to be scared and alone. Besides, it's just one night." Danny's face lit up with hope. "Really? We could stay somewhere warm." Maya nodded and smiled at him. "Really? I have a couch your dad can sleep on, and you can have my bed. It's small, but it's warm and dry." Jake looked like he might cry. "I don't know what to say. This is incredibly kind of you." "You don't have to say anything," Maya replied. "Just help me get through this storm, and we'll call it even." They gathered their bags and followed Maya out into the blizzard. The wind was so strong it almost knocked Danny over, so Jake picked him up and carried him. Maya led them through the swirling snow, past closed shops and empty streets. The city looked like a ghost town in the white darkness. Her apartment building was old and run down, with peeling paint and broken tiles in the lobby. Maya felt embarrassed as they climbed the stairs to the third floor. Her apartment was tiny, just one room with a small kitchen area, a fold-out bed, and an old couch. The heat worked, but barely, and she had to keep the temperature low to save money on the electric bill. "It's not much," she said as she unlocked the door. "It's perfect," Jake said, and he meant it. After hours in the cold station, the small apartment felt like heaven. Maya turned up the heat and started making dinner. She only had instant noodles and some crackers, but she shared everything she had. She even used her last packet of hot chocolate mix to make Danny a warm drink. The little boy smiled for the first time since she met him. While they ate, Jake noticed the engineering books stacked on Maya's small table. Advanced calculus, physics, rocket propulsion theory. These weren't simple books. "Are you studying engineering?" "Yes." Maya blushed. "I was, before I had to drop out. I still study on my own, though. I want to design spacecraft engines someday." "I know it sounds crazy." "It doesn't sound crazy at all," Jake said quietly. "What kind of engines?" Maya's eyes lit up as she started talking about ion drives and fuel efficiency. Jake listened carefully, asking smart questions that showed he understood what she was saying. Danny fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from the long day. "You should get some rest too," Maya said, bringing Jake a pillow and blanket. "Tomorrow will be better." As she made herself a bed on the floor, Maya wondered about her strange guest. There was something different about Jake, something that didn't quite fit with their story about a broken-down car. But she was too tired to think about it. She had shown kindness to strangers, just like her parents had taught her. That was enough. For now, outside, the storm raged on, but inside the small apartment, 3 people slept peacefully, warm and safe. Maya woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. She opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling, confused. She never had bacon in her apartment. She could barely afford instant noodles most days. Then she remembered Jake and Danny had stayed the night. She sat up quickly, her back sore from sleeping on the hard floor. The apartment was warmer than usual, and she could hear quiet voices from the kitchen area. Jake was cooking breakfast while Danny sat at her small table, drawing pictures on a piece of paper. "Good morning," Jake said with a smile. "I hope you don't mind. I went out early and bought some groceries. The storm stopped around 5 this morning." Maya rubbed her eyes and looked around. There were several bags of food on her counter, more groceries than she usually bought in a month. "You didn't have to do that," she said, feeling embarrassed. "It's the least I could do," Jake replied, flipping pancakes in her old frying pan. "You saved us last night." Danny slept better than he has in weeks. The little boy looked up from his drawing and grinned. "Maya, look! I drew a picture of a rocket ship. Dad says you want to build spaceships." Maya smiled and walked over to see his artwork. It was a simple drawing of a rocket with flames coming out the bottom, flying toward a moon covered in stars. "It's beautiful, Danny. Maybe someday I'll build a real one just like it." "Really?" Danny's eyes went wide with excitement. "Really," Maya said, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. Jake served breakfast on Maya's mismatched plates. Real eggs, crispy bacon, fluffy pancakes with syrup. It was the best meal Maya had eaten in months. She tried not to eat too fast, but she was hungrier than she realized. "So tell me more about your engineering studies," Jake said as they ate. "What specifically interests you about spacecraft engines?" Maya felt her cheeks turn red. Most people thought her dreams were silly. "Well, I've been reading about ion propulsion systems. They're much more efficient than chemical rockets for long-distance space travel. But the current designs are still too slow for interplanetary missions." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "What would you change about them?" "The power source is the main problem," Maya said, getting excited despite her shyness. "If we could find a way to increase the electrical power without adding too much weight, we could accelerate the ions much faster." I've been working on some calculations that show how we might be able to do that. She got up and grabbed one of her notebooks, opening it to pages covered with equations and diagrams. Jake studied the pages carefully, his eyebrows rising higher. With each equation, "This is remarkable work," he said quietly. "Have you shown this to anyone?" Maya laughed bitterly. "Who would I show it to? I'm a waitress who cleans offices at night. No one's going to listen to me." Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring at her notebook. Danny had finished eating and was coloring another picture, humming softly to himself. Finally, Jake looked up at Maya with an expression she couldn't read. "Maya, I need to tell you something," he said. "I wasn't completely honest with you last night." Maya's stomach dropped. She had known something was strange about Jake. His clothes were too expensive, his shoes too clean. She prepared herself for bad news. Maybe he was running from the police. Maybe he had lied about being Danny's father. "Are you going to hurt me?" she asked quietly. "What? No," Jake said quickly. "Nothing like that. It's just ... My last name isn't really Morrison." "Well, it is. But I'm not just some regular guy whose car broke down." He reached into his wallet and pulled out a business card. Maya took it with shaking hands and read it slowly. Jake Morrison, Chief Executive Officer, Morrison Aerospace Industries. Maya stared at the card, then at Jake, then back at the card. Morrison Aerospace was one of the biggest space companies in the world. She had read about them in her engineering magazines. They built satellites and space stations and had contracts with NASA. "This is a joke, right?" she said. Jake pulled out his driver's license and showed it to her. The name matched the business card. Then he showed her a company ID badge with his picture on it. "I know it's hard to believe," he said. "I was in Detroit yesterday looking at a possible location for a new factory. I usually travel with security guards and assistants, but sometimes I like to go places alone. I get a better feel for the community that way." Maya's hands were shaking as she set down the business card. "You're really the CEO of Morrison Aerospace?" "I am." "And your car really broke down?" "It was a rental car, but yes, it really broke down. The storm really did cancel all the flights and fill up all the hotels. Everything I told you was true, except I left out the part about being rich." Maya stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the city covered in fresh snow. This felt like a dream. People like Jake Morrison didn't end up in her apartment. She was nobody special, just a poor girl trying to survive. "Why didn't you call someone from your company?" she asked. "Surely they could have helped you." "They could have," Jake admitted. "But by the time I realized how bad the storm was, it was late at night, and then I met you." He paused. "Maya, what you did last night, opening your home to complete strangers when you barely have enough for yourself, that's not something you see every day. Especially not in my world." Maya turned around to face him. "What do you mean?" "I mean that most people I know would never do what you did. They'd be too scared, or too suspicious, or too selfish. But you saw a scared child and a worried father, and you helped us without thinking about what you might get in return." Danny looked up from his coloring. "Dad, are you telling Maya about your job?" "Yes, buddy. I'm telling her about my job. Dad builds rocket ships," Danny said proudly. "He's really smart, just like you." Jake smiled at his son, then looked back at Maya. "I have a proposition for you." "What kind of proposition?" Maya asked carefully. "I want to offer you a job at Morrison Aerospace, an entry-level engineering position. You'd start in our research and development department, working on propulsion systems." Maya felt like the room was spinning. "I can't accept that. I don't even have a college degree." "You have something better," Jake said. "You have curiosity, intelligence, and the ability to think about problems in new ways. Your calculations in that notebook show more insight than I've seen from engineers with decades of experience." "But I'm not qualified." "Maya," Jake interrupted gently, Do you remember what you told me last night? You said you know what it's like to be scared and alone. You saw someone who needed help, and you helped them. That tells me more about your character than any diploma could. Maya sat back down at the table, her mind racing. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. I need time to think about it, she said finally. Of course, Jake said. But while you're thinking, remember this. Everyone deserves a chance to follow their dreams. Last night, you gave Danny and me a chance when we needed it most. Now, I'm giving you a chance. He wrote something on the back of his business card and handed it to her. This is my direct phone number. Call me when you've decided. Maya looked at the card in her hands, then at Jake, then at Danny, who was watching her with hopeful eyes. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this? Jake smiled. Because yesterday I was just another rich businessman stuck in a storm. But you saw me as a father who needed help. You treated us like family. The world needs more people like you, Maya, and I think you could help us build a better future, literally. Outside, the sun was shining on the fresh snow, making everything look clean and new. Maya felt like her whole life was about to change, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. 6 months had passed since that snowy night in Detroit. Maya still couldn't believe how much her life had changed. She now lived in a small apartment near Morrison Aerospace Industries in California, and every morning she walked into a real engineering lab where she worked on actual spacecraft engines. At first, she had been terrified. Everyone around her had fancy degrees from expensive universities. They used big words and talked about complex theories that she had only read about in books. But Jake had been right about one thing. She could think about problems differently than the others. Maya's desk was covered with papers and computer printouts. She was working on improving the ion drive system that the company used in their satellites. The current engines were good, but Maya knew they could be much better. She had been testing a new design that used less power but created more thrust. Maya, how's the project going? Asked Dr. Lisa Carter, the head of the propulsion department. She was a kind woman in her 50s who had taken Maya under her wing. I think I found something important, Maya said, pointing to her computer screen. Look at these numbers. If we change the shape of the ion grid and adjust the electrical field, we can increase efficiency by 40%. Dr. Carter leaned over to look at the data. Her eyes grew wide as she read the results. Maya, are you sure about these calculations? I've checked them 5 times, Maya replied. I even built a small test model to make sure. It works, Dr. Carter. It really works. Dr. Carter was quiet for a moment, studying the numbers. If this is correct, it would change everything. We could build spacecraft that travel twice as fast as anything we have now. Maya felt a warm feeling in her chest. After months of feeling like she didn't belong here, she had finally created something that mattered. Should I show it to Mr. Morrison? Absolutely. Let's schedule a meeting for tomorrow morning. That night, Maya lay in her bed thinking about the meeting. She was nervous but excited. Jake had given her this chance, and now she had something real to show him. She thought about Danny and wondered how he was doing. Jake had told her that his son asked about her often, always wanting to know if she had built any rocket ships yet. The next morning, Maya walked into Jake's office carrying a folder full of her research. The office was huge, with windows that looked out over the entire facility. She could see engineers working on real spacecraft in the buildings below. Maya, good to see you, Jake said with a smile. Dr. Carter tells me you have something exciting to show me. Maya opened her folder and spread out her papers on Jake's desk. I've been working on improving our ion drive system. The current design is good, but I found a way to make it much better. She explained her discoveries, pointing to graphs and equations. Jake listened carefully, asking questions that showed he understood the science behind her work. Dr. Carter was there too, nodding. As Maya talked, "This is incredible work," Jake said when she finished. How long did it take you to develop this? About 3 months, Maya replied. I stayed late most nights to work on it. Jake and Dr. Carter exchanged a look. Maya, do you understand what this means? Dr. Carter asked. It means our spacecraft can go faster, Maya said. Not sure why they both look so serious. It means much more than that, Jake said. With this technology, we could finally send people to Mars in a reasonable amount of time. We could explore the outer planets. This could change the future of space exploration. Maya felt her heart racing. She had known her design was good, but she hadn't realized it was that important. There's something else, Jake said, his voice getting quieter. Something I need to tell both of you. It's classified information, but given Maya's breakthrough, you both need to know. He walked to his window and looked out at the sky. 3 weeks ago, our deep space monitoring stations picked up something unusual. Radio signals from outside our solar system. They're not natural. Someone is sending them. Maya felt cold all over. You mean aliens? We think so. The signals are getting stronger, which means whoever is sending them is getting closer to Earth. Doctor. Carter sat down heavily in her chair. How close? Our best guess is that they'll reach the outer edge of our solar system in about 2 years, Jake said. Maybe less. Maya stared at him. Are they friendly? Jake turned back to face them. We don't know. But the government is asking all aerospace companies to prepare for the worst. They want us to develop new technologies that could be used for defense if needed. And my engine design? Maya asked. Could be exactly what we need, Jake said. If these visitors turn out to be hostile, we'll need spacecraft that can move fast and change direction quickly. Your ion drive system could give us that advantage. Maya felt overwhelmed. 6 months ago, she had been a poor waitress studying engineering books in her tiny apartment. Now she was working on technology that might help protect the entire planet. What do we do now? She asked. We build it, Jake said. I'm putting together a special team to develop your engine design as quickly as possible. Maya, I want you to lead the project. Me? But you're the person who invented it, Jake interrupted. No one understands this technology better than you do. Over the next few weeks, Maya found herself in charge of a team of 20 engineers. They worked day and night to build a full-size version of her engine. Maya had never been a leader before, but she discovered that she was good at explaining her ideas and helping others understand how the technology worked. The first test was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Maya stood in the control room, watching through thick glass as her engine was mounted on a test spacecraft. Her hands were shaking as she gave the order to start the test. The engine hummed to life, glowing blue-white as it accelerated ions to incredible speeds. The spacecraft began to move, slowly at first, then faster and faster. The acceleration was smooth and steady, much better than the old engines. Efficiency is 42% above our previous best, called out one of the technicians. Thrust is stable. All systems are working perfectly. Maya felt tears in her eyes as she watched her invention work. It was real. She had actually built something that could help humanity reach for the stars. But even as she celebrated, she couldn't stop thinking about Jake's words. Somewhere out there, unknown beings were heading toward Earth. Were they explorers like humans, curious about other worlds? Or were they something else, something dangerous? Maya looked at the glowing engine and made a silent promise. Whatever those signals meant, whatever was coming toward Earth, humanity will be ready. Her engines would. Make sure of that night. She called Jake to give him the good news about the test. The engine works perfectly, she told him. We can start building them for real spacecraft right away. That's wonderful, Maya, Jake said. I'm proud of you. You've done something amazing. I had help, Maya said. You gave me the chance to do this. I gave you the opportunity, Jake replied. But you did all the hard work. You've already proven that my faith in you was justified. After she hung up the phone, Maya sat in her apartment thinking about the future. She had achieved her dream of building spacecraft engines, but now she realized that this was just the beginning. The real test was still coming, somewhere out there in the darkness between the stars. The alarm bells rang through Morrison Aerospace at 3 in the morning. Maya jumped out of bed and grabbed her phone. There were 12 missed calls from Jake and Dr. Carter. Her hand shook as she called back. Maya, get to the facility right now. Jake's voice was tight with worry. They're here. Maya threw on clothes and drove through the empty streets as fast as she could. When she arrived, the building was buzzing with activity. Scientists and engineers were running between rooms, carrying papers and shouting orders. She found Jake in the main control center, standing in front of a wall of computer screens. What's happening? Maya asked. The radio signal stopped 2 hours ago, Jake said without looking away from the screens. Then our telescopes picked up movement near Jupiter. 3 large objects, each about the size of a city block. They're not natural, and they're heading toward Earth. Maya felt her stomach drop. How long do we have? At their current speed, about 18 hours until they reach Earth orbit, Dr. Carter said, walking up behind them. The president has been briefed. The military is preparing for the worst. On the main screen, Maya could see a fuzzy image of one of the alien ships. It looked like a dark metal triangle with strange lights along its edges. Even in the blurry telescope image, it looked dangerous. Have they tried to communicate? Maya asked. Nothing, Jake replied. No response to any of our radio signals. They're just coming straight at us. Admiral Lisa Parker, a stern woman in her 60s, entered the control room. Maya had met her once before when the government started working with Morrison Aerospace on defense projects. The admiral looked tired and worried. Morrison, what's the status on those new engines? She asked. We have 12 spacecraft fitted with Maya's ion drive system, Jake replied. They're not military ships, but they're fast and maneuverable. That's all we have? Admiral Parker asked. The military has their own ships, but they use older technology. They're slower and less efficient than Maya's design. Admiral Parker looked at Maya. Miss Collins, I need to ask you something important. Can your engines give our pilots an advantage in a fight? Maya's mouth went dry. She had built her engines to explore space, not to fight wars. They can accelerate faster and change direction, quicker than any engine we've had before. But I designed them for exploration, not combat. Right now, they're our best hope, the Admiral said. I'm putting together a defense fleet. Half military ships, half civilian ships with your engines. We need someone who understands the technology to coordinate our tactics. You want me to help plan a battle? Maya asked, her voice small. I want you to help us survive, Admiral Parker replied. The next 16 hours passed like a nightmare. Maya found herself in a military command center, surrounded by generals and admirals and computer screens showing the approaching alien ships. She had never felt so out of place in her life. The alien ships had spread out as they got closer to Earth. One was approaching from above the North Pole, one from the side near the moon, and one from below. It looked like they were trying to surround the planet. They know what they're doing, Admiral Parker said grimly. This is a coordinated attack. Maya studied the formation on the screens. If they're trying to surround us, that means they want to cut off our escape routes. They're treating this like a hunting expedition. What do you mean? Asked General Robert Hayes, the head of the Space Defense Command. They're not trying to negotiate or even threaten us first. They're moving into position to trap us. That suggests they've done this before to other planets. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed what Maya had said. Our ships are in position, Admiral Parker announced. 12 ships with Maya's engines, 24 military vessels with standard propulsion. It's not much, but it's all we have. Maya watched the tactical display as human ships moved to intercept the aliens near Mars. The plan was to engage them as far from Earth as possible, to buy time for evacuations if things went badly. First contact in 30 minutes, announced a technician. Maya felt sick to her stomach. She thought about Danny, Jake's son, who was somewhere safe underground with other civilians. She thought about all the people on Earth who had no idea their world was about to change forever. Maya, Admiral Parker said quietly, I need you to talk to our pilots. They need to understand how to use your engines effectively in combat. Maya put on a headset and spoke to the pilots of the ships equipped with her engines. Her voice was shaky at first, but as she explained the capabilities of her technology, she grew more confident. Remember, you can accelerate and turn much faster than they expect, she told them. Use that advantage. Don't try to match their firepower. Use your speed to avoid their weapons and strike from unexpected angles. Copy that, Control, came the voice of Captain Steve Miller, leading the civilian ship squadron. We'll make these engines count. On the main screen, Maya watched as the human fleet approached the first alien ship. It was massive, much larger than it had appeared in the telescope images. Strange weapons were visible along its dark surface, and it was moving with purpose toward the human ships. Contact in 10 seconds, announced the radar operator. Maya held her breath as the two fleets met. The alien ship fired first, sending bright beams of energy toward the human vessels. The military ships, with their older engines, struggled to avoid the incoming fire. 3 were hit immediately, their hulls glowing red-hot from the alien weapons. But the ships with Maya's engines were different. They danced between the energy beams like birds in flight, their incredible acceleration allowing them to change direction in ways the aliens hadn't expected. Captain Miller's voice came through the radio. Target acquired. Beginning attack run. Maya watched as the civilian ships, built for peaceful exploration but now pressed into war, swooped in toward the alien vessel. Their weapons were smaller than the military ships, but Maya's engines let them get close enough to target weak points in the alien armor. Direct hit, shouted one of the pilots. Their shields are flickering, but the aliens were learning fast. The massive ship began to spin, bringing new weapons to bear on the human attackers. Maya realized with horror that the aliens had been holding back, testing human capabilities before showing their full strength. They're adapting to our tactics, Maya said into her headset. You need to change your approach every few minutes, or they'll predict your movements. Understood, Control, Captain Miller replied. All civilian ships, switch to Formation Delta. Let's show them what these engines can really do. What happened next amazed everyone in the command center. The ships with Maya's engines began moving in patterns that seemed impossible, accelerating in one direction, then instantly changing course without losing speed. They wove around the alien weapons' fire like they were dancing, striking at the massive ship from every angle. Their hull is breaching, shouted the pilot. Whatever that ship is made of, it can't handle concentrated fire at close range. Maya felt a surge of hope as she watched the first alien ship begin to drift, dark smoke pouring from holes in its hull. Humanity had won the first battle, but her hope faded quickly as Admiral Parker pointed to another screen. The other 2 ships are accelerating toward Earth. They're not stopping to help their damaged vessel. Maya realized the terrible truth. The aliens had sacrificed one ship to learn about human capabilities. Now they knew exactly what they were facing, and they were adapting their strategy accordingly. How long until they reach Earth? She asked. 6 hours, Admiral Parker replied grimly. And now they know exactly how dangerous your engines are. They won't underestimate us again. The 2 remaining alien ships reached Earth orbit in 4 hours, not 6. They were moving faster than anyone had calculated, and Maya realized with growing fear that they were much smarter than humanity had hoped. They're positioning themselves on opposite sides of the planet, Admiral Parker announced to the packed command center. Whatever they're planning, we won't be able to stop both of them at the same time. Maya stared at the tactical display, watching the 2 massive ships settle. into orbit. They weren't attacking yet, but she could see weapons charging along their hulls. The ships were just waiting, like predators watching their prey. "Why aren't they firing?" asked General Hayes. "Because they don't need to rush," Maya said quietly. "They know we can't escape. They're probably calling for more ships." Jake, who had been quiet for most of the battle, suddenly spoke up. "Maya's right. We intercepted a transmission 20 minutes ago. Short burst, very powerful, heading out toward deep space." "They're calling for backup," Admiral Parker said grimly. "How long do we have?" "Based on the signal's strength and direction, probably 6 months before reinforcements arrive," Jake replied. Maya felt her heart sink. 6 months sounded like a long time, but she knew it wasn't enough. Earth's entire space fleet consisted of fewer than 50 ships, and most of them used old technology. Even with her improved engines, humanity was no match for an entire alien invasion force. "We need to do something they won't expect," Maya said suddenly. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Admiral Parker asked. Maya walked to the main display and pointed at the tactical screen. "Look at their formation. They're defending themselves against attacks from Earth. They're expecting us to try to fight them here in our own system." "Where else will we fight them?" General Hayes asked. "We don't fight them," Maya said, her voice growing stronger as the idea formed. "We go to their home system and attack them there." The room erupted in shocked voices. "That's impossible," said Dr. Carter. "We don't even know where they came from." "We can trace their original radio signals," Maya replied. "And we have something they don't expect us to have." "What's that?" Admiral Parker asked. "Faster ships than they think we can build." Maya turned to face the room. "I've been working on something new. An advanced version of my ion drive that can sustain faster than light travel. I wasn't going to test it for another year, but we don't have that luxury." Jake stepped forward. "Maya, faster than light travel has never been achieved by humans. The energy requirements alone, I solved." "The energy problem 3 weeks ago," Maya interrupted. "I've been running computer simulations in secret. The new engine design works, Jake. I just need 2 months to build a prototype." Admiral Parker studied Maya with sharp eyes. "Even if your new engines work, we don't have enough ships to mount an effective attack on their homeworld." "We don't need a lot of ships," Maya said. "We just need the right ships. Small, fast vessels that can strike quickly and get out before their defenses respond. If we can damage their shipyards and communication centers, we can prevent them from sending more ships to Earth." The room fell silent as everyone considered Maya's proposal. It was incredibly dangerous, but Maya could see in their faces that they were starting to believe it might work. "How many ships would you need?" Admiral Parker asked. 6, Maya said. "Small crews, maximum speed, armed with our best weapons. The mission would take about 4 months round trip." "And if the new engines don't work?" General Hayes asked. "Then we're all dead anyway when their reinforcements arrive," Maya replied bluntly. Admiral Parker was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "Do it. You have authorization to build your new engines. I'll select the best pilots we have for the mission." The next 8 weeks were the most intense of Maya's life. She worked 18 hours a day, designing and building engines that could bend the laws of physics. Her team grew to over 200 engineers and scientists, all working on different parts of the project. The biggest challenge was the energy source. Faster than light travel required more power than any human reactor had ever produced. Maya solved the problem by designing a new type of fusion engine that could compress matter to incredible densities, releasing enormous amounts of energy in controlled bursts. Jake spent most of his time coordinating with the military, helping to select the ships and crews for the mission. The chosen vessels were small, fast scouts that had been modified with Maya's original ion drives. Now they would receive the new faster-than-light engines as well. "The pilots want to meet you," Jake told Maya one evening as she worked late in the lab. "Why?" Maya asked, not looking up from her calculations. Because you're going with them. Maya's head snapped up. What do you mean? The engines are too complex for the pilots to operate alone, Jake explained. They need someone who understands the technology to make real-time adjustments during the journey. Someone who can fix problems if something goes wrong. Jake, I'm not a pilot. I'm an engineer. You're the only person who completely understands how these engines work. Without you, the mission fails. Maya felt terrified and excited at the same time. She had dreamed of traveling to the stars, but not like this. Not as part of a desperate military mission to save humanity. The night before the launch, Maya called Danny to say goodbye. Jake had brought his son to a safe bunker deep underground, along with thousands of other civilians. Are you really going to fly to another star? Danny asked, his voice small through the phone. I'm going to try, Maya said. Remember that picture you drew of the rocket ship flying to the moon? I'm finally going to build one just like it. Will you come back? Danny asked. Maya felt tears in her eyes. I'm going to try very hard to come back. And when I do, I'll tell you all about the stars. The launch took place before dawn, away from the alien ships watching Earth. 6 small spacecraft, each equipped with Maya's revolutionary engines, lifted off from a secret military base. Maya was aboard the lead ship, the Explorer, along with Captain Miller and 2 other crew members. As Earth fell away below them, Maya watched the alien ships through the viewport. They seemed to notice the departing vessels, but made no move to intercept them, probably because they thought 6 small ships couldn't pose any threat. Engaging faster than light engines, Captain Miller announced. Maya felt her stomach lurch as the new engines activated. Space around the ship began to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. Stars stretched into lines of light, and then, suddenly, everything went dark. When the engine shut down 3 days later, they were in an alien solar system. Maya looked out at strange stars she had never seen before, and in the distance, she could see massive space stations orbiting an alien world. Target acquired, Captain Miller said grimly. Maya, I hope your engines work as well in combat as they do in travel. Maya stared at the alien homeworld and realized that the fate of humanity now rested on her shoulders. Everything she had learned, everything she had built, had led to this moment. It was time to show the aliens that humans would not go quietly into the dark. The alien homeworld was nothing like Earth. 3 purple suns hung in the dark sky, casting strange shadows across a planet covered in metal cities and massive space docks. Maya counted at least 50 ships under construction in the orbital shipyards, each one larger than the vessels that had attacked Earth. There's our target, Captain Miller said, pointing to the largest space station. Intelligence suggests that's their main communication center. If we can destroy it, they won't be able to coordinate their invasion fleet. Maya studied the station through the ship's sensors. It was enormous, easily 10 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. Thousands of aliens were probably working inside it, just like the engineers and scientists back on Earth. Are we really going to attack civilians? Maya asked quietly. Captain Miller's face was grim. Maya, they were planning to wipe out every human on Earth. Sometimes good people have to do hard things to protect the innocent. Maya nodded, but her stomach felt sick. She had built her engines to explore the universe and bring people together, not to fight wars. But the aliens had forced this choice on humanity. All ships, this is Explorer, Captain Miller spoke into his radio. Target the communication arrays first, then the shipyard power cores. We have maybe 10 minutes before their defense fleet responds. The 6 human ships moved toward the alien station like deadly fish swimming through dark water. Maya's engines allowed them to accelerate silently and change direction without warning. The aliens clearly weren't expecting an attack on their home system. Weapons range in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Karen Hayes. The ship's weapons officer. Maya watched the tactical display as the human ships spread out around the station. Her engines were working perfectly, giving the pilots incredible control over their movements. For a moment, she felt proud of what she had created. Then the aliens noticed them. Alarms began blaring from the space station, and defensive weapons turned toward the attacking ships. Energy beams lashed out across space, but the human vessels were already moving, dancing between the weapon strikes with impossible grace. "Target acquired," Captain Miller said, firing main weapons. The Explorer's missiles streaked toward the communication tower at the center of the station. Maya held her breath as she watched them impact, sending metal and sparks flying into space. One by one, the other human ships struck their targets, causing explosions across the massive structure. Direct hit on the main power core. Shouted the pilot of the Falcon. "Their lights are going out." Maya watched in amazement as sections of the alien station went dark. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting an eerie red glow over the damaged structure. Her engines had given humanity the element of surprise they needed, but the victory celebration was short-lived. "Alien fleet approaching from the planet," Lieutenant Hayes reported. 12 ships heading straight for us." Maya looked at the sensor display and felt her heart race. The alien ships were much larger than the human vessels, and they were moving fast. Even with her advanced engines, the human ships were outnumbered 2-1. "All ships begin evasive maneuvers," Captain Miller ordered. "Use your speed advantage. Don't let them get a clean shot." The battle that followed was unlike anything Maya had ever imagined. The human ships moved like birds in a storm, swooping and diving around the alien vessels. Maya's engines allowed them to accelerate in directions that seemed to defy physics, making them almost impossible to target. But the aliens were learning, just like they had at Earth. They began firing in patterns, trying to predict where the human ships would be instead of where they were. One by one, the alien weapons came closer to their targets. "Explorer, this is Ranger," came a panicked voice over the radio. "We've been hit. Engines are failing." Maya watched in horror as one of the human ships began to drift, smoke pouring from its damaged hull. The aliens immediately focused their fire on the crippled vessel. "We have to help them," Maya said. "We can't," Captain Miller replied grimly. "If we break formation, we'll all be destroyed." Maya stared at the tactical display, her mind racing. There had to be something they could do. Then she remembered a conversation with Jake months ago about how spacecraft engines could be modified for different purposes. "Captain, I have an idea," Maya said suddenly. "But you're not going to like it. Tell me." "I can overload our engine cores. It will create a massive electromagnetic pulse that should disable the alien ship's weapons and sensors. But it will also destroy our engines. We'll be stuck here." Captain Miller was quiet for a moment. How long would the aliens be disabled? "Maybe an hour if we're lucky. That's enough time for the other ships to escape and get back to Earth with the intelligence we've gathered." Captain Miller keyed his radio. "All ships, this is Explorer. We're going to create a distraction. When the alien fleet is disabled, get out of here. Get back to Earth and tell them what you've learned." "Captain, we're not leaving you," came the voice of the Falcon's pilot. "That's an order, Lieutenant. Someone has to warn Earth about the size of their fleet." Maya began working on her control panel, reconfiguring the engine systems for overload. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. This was what her engines were really meant for, not just to explore the stars, but to protect the people she cared about. "Overload sequence initiated," Maya announced. 60 seconds to electromagnetic pulse." The human ships continued their desperate dance around the alien fleet. Maya could see that the remaining vessels were taking damage, their hull armor glowing red from near misses. They wouldn't last much longer. 10 seconds, Maya called out. She thought about Danny, probably still hiding in that underground bunker, waiting for news from the stars. She thought about Jake, who had given her the chance to become more than just a poor girl with impossible dreams. She thought about all the people on Earth who were counting on them. Electromagnetic pulse in 3, 2, 1. Maya pressed the button. The Explorer's engines erupted in a brilliant flash of light that spread across the alien fleet like a wave. One by one, the alien ships went dark, their weapons falling silent as their electrical systems failed. "It worked!" Captain Miller shouted. "All ships, get out of here now!" Through the viewport, Maya watched as the 5 remaining human ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Carrying vital intelligence back to Earth, the Explorer drifted powerless. In space, surrounded by equally powerless alien vessels. "Well," Captain Miller said with a tired smile, "I guess we wait and see what happens next." 2 hours later, the alien ships began to power up again. But instead of opening fire, they surrounded the Explorer and guided it toward the space station. Maya expected to be taken prisoner, or worse, instead. Something unexpected happened. A group of alien leaders came aboard the Explorer. They were tall, gray-skinned beings with large eyes, nothing like the monsters Maya had imagined. Their leader, who spoke through a translation device, had a surprising message. "Your species shows remarkable innovation and courage," the alien sighed. "We are called the Kaleri, and we have conquered many worlds. But we have never encountered a species that could travel to our home system and disable our fleet with such a small force." "Are you going to kill us?" Captain Miller asked bluntly. "No," the Kaleri leader replied. "We wish to negotiate." It turned out that the Kaleri respected strength above all else. Humanity's ability to strike at their homeworld had earned their grudging admiration. Over the next several days, Maya found herself part of historic negotiations that would change both species forever. The Kaleri agreed to withdraw their invasion fleet from Earth in exchange for a technology sharing agreement. They were particularly interested in Maya's engine designs, which were unlike anything in their vast empire. 6 months later, Maya stood in the newly constructed Collins Institute for Advanced Propulsion, watching human and Kaleri engineers work together on designs for spacecraft that could explore distant galaxies. Her engines, which had started as a way to help humanity reach for the stars, had instead brought 2 civilizations together. Jake walked up beside her, with Danny holding his hand. The little boy had grown taller during Maya's absence, but his eyes still lit up when he saw her. "Did you really fly to another star?" Danny asked. "I did," Maya replied, kneeling down to his level. "And someday, when you're older, maybe you can fly there too. Will the aliens be our friends?" Maya looked out at the mixed teams of humans and Kaleri working on their joint projects. "I think they will be, Danny. Sometimes the best friendships start with understanding that we're all stronger when we work together." That night, Maya stood on the roof of her new laboratory, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships powered by her engines were exploring worlds that no human had ever seen. The poor girl who had once shared her last packet of hot chocolate with strangers had helped humanity take its first steps toward becoming a truly galactic civilization. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness on a snowy night in Detroit.